Hello there, everyone, and welcome to TVS Nightline. Here with me, Cheryl Shaminato, and as always, thank you for joining me tonight. Now on to the headlines. All the crocodiles that were successfully captured a few days ago consisted of female crocodiles. However, the crocodile search team of Samarahan Division aims to capture male crocs which were deemed as predators. According to Head of Operations Team Wan Mazlan Wan Mazian, the search operations will be prolonged until the end of the week, which targets the male crocodiles, following the previous operation which only resulted with the capturing of female crocodiles.
Kami siasat nugget yang makan orang tu tadi. Yang udah kami semua perempuan mah, tidak boleh laki-laki. Yang makan tu laki-laki lah, tidak ada perempuan. Mungkin ujung minggu tu. Hari Minggu juga habis. Orang kampung target nang mau ya dapat lah.
He also added that the hunting operations team will be expanded to Maranet River area.
Ya, memang sungai tu aja daripada Motuang sampai ke Maranet itu. Dari Kampung sampai Kampung Pinang lah yang target kami. Dan kami ada jumpa yang besar lah.
Besar ni?
Kurang lebih dalam 16-17 kaki.
Meanwhile, the hunting operations, which was activated since Monday, managed to gain a progressive capture, namely 6 female crocodiles by using ducks as bait for the said reptiles. Now, the Sarawak River is known of the infestation of crocodiles, while these creatures are often deemed as a threat to the community's safety. But actually, these predators are actually protected species. The recent croc attack at local village areas was tragic and terrifying. However, according to Teo Ya Ching, the manager of Jong Crocodile Farm, any parties whom do not attain a hunting license will be fined. Therefore, it is evident that only responsible agencies are given the authority to take action upon any crocodile sightings.
Okey, kalau diorang yang tak ada license punya, mungkin diorang akan dikena denda hukuman. Kalau siapa-siapa ada jumpa buaya yang liar, bagus kontak pihak yang profesional macam Bomba, Forestry, APM untuk tangkap buaya ini.
The 23-acre crocodile farm has provided rehabilitation for 7 species of crocodiles as part of a tourism and education hub for the future generations. It also serves as a center not only for crocs but also other species of animals.
Okey, dalam Jong sini ada 7 spesies, termasuk yang luar negara punya, tapi yang lokal dalam Sarawak ini memang 2 jenis. Satu jenis Tomistoma, buaya jejulung yang terancam, yang sudah makin pupus, dengan satu lagi yang biasa kita tengok ada macam dia makan orang, case atau dia dalam sungai yang liar itu. Dan satu lagi jenis saltwater crocodiles atau nama dia buaya katak yang selalu dia serang orang yang dekat sungai, yang itu lebih ganas sikit.
Now, meanwhile, Mora Tuang Assemblyman Dato' Idris Buang suggests a tracking chip to be used as part of the crocodile hunt operations as an effective approach on the migration pattern of the reptile.
Dan buaya-buaya tertentu yang tak boleh dibunuh sewenang-wenangnya, dibubuh pengesan atau homing device lah yang dapat memberi isyarat kepada kita seperti mana GPS untuk kita lihat bagaimana dia migrate dari satu tempat ke tempat.
He also added that the said reptiles will be placed at one zone which they will be rehabilitated. As such, the Sarawak Forestry Corporation or SFC commented that the standard operating procedure states that the reptile is a protected species. Following the reptile's increasing population, Idris also suggests that crocodiles which were hunted could be used as an exported exotic food product for the international market.
Buat satu industri kulit dan daging buaya ni, boleh dapat yang buaya yang anak-anak tu, anak-anak buaya. Jadi kita mempunyai maklumat di Australia, di Filipina dan juga di Sabah sendiri, Beaufort. Ada industri ni dibuat dan kita diberitahulah, okey, pasaran kulit ni begitu mahal.
Meanwhile, efforts on the Sarawak Crocodile Hunt team should be joined under one entity according through proper licensing from SFC.
Samaran Crocodile Hunter saya rasa sekarang ni dia ni ditubuh oleh pusat khidmat kita di bawah 2 jawatankuasa, tiga lah, jawatankuasa kebajikan, jawatankuasa produktiviti dan jawatankuasa riadah, belia sukan dan riadah. Jadi kita mengkoopkan ya ahli-ahli daripada orang kampung yang mempunyai pengalaman mengenai buaya dan pakar-pakar penembak yang ada lesen daripada SFC.
Now, following the next news, as schools closure due to COVID-19 have affected the businesses of the school buses operators. Now, operators acknowledge that it is still difficult to adjust on the current situation in which they find it hard to recover from the losses felt. On normal days, drivers will wake up as early as 4 a.m. to start their bus service operations. The Federation of Sarawak School Bus Operators Association President Sawoi Ani said the bus drivers were in great need of financial assistance on a monthly basis. Without such assistance, they cannot think of any other way to pay their existing debt.
Memang teruk. Ini baru cukup teruk. Dulu kalau van at least ada juga sampai 3,000 lebih. Tapi sekarang 30 sen pun tidak ada. Sekarang memang utang pun utang lah. Kalau kredit mau tarik bas, tarik lah. Biar dia simpan.
She called on the government to look into the struggles faced by the operators, thus urging them to render the much-needed assistance, at least a sufficient amount to ease their burden by extending the driver's period of time to operate.
Kami dari pengusaha bas sekolah Sarawak mohon kepada kerajaan bagi bas yang usia dia 30 tahun dilanjutkan sampai kami tidak boleh tes kat puspakom ataupun sampai kondem. Kerana kami tak mampu lagi nak beli bas baru.
Adalah yang saving sikit lah lama punya. Terpaksa lah kita utang dengan kedai. Okey lah. Sebab kita memang lama lah. Lama dengan workshop tu lah.
Now, in the span of 24 hours, 2 fatal accidents were reported at 2 separate locations in Sarawak. In Lawas, a 33-year-old People's Volunteer Corps or RELA officer was killed following a collision with a car near RKB Banting. The incident happened at about 8 a.m. on Wednesday. According to Traffic Investigation and Enforcement Department Chief Superintendent Alexan Nagachabu, he said the deceased, identified as Zulhilmi Aznan, who hailed from Kampong Dato, Kuala Lawas. The deceased was headed to town when another car made a sudden exit from a junction which led to the collision, and the victim was pronounced dead at the scene. Meanwhile, in another incident, a 30-year-old male motorcyclist was killed on the spot after he suffered from serious head injuries in an accident at KM60 Jalan Kuching Sri Aman on Tuesday night. Sarawak Traffic Investigation and Enforcement Chief Superintendent Alexan Nagachabu said the deceased has been identified as Muhammad LD Hanani from Serian. Alexan said it is believed that the deceased lost control of his machine as he was negotiating a bend near the Serian post office. Now, Datuk Petinggi Abang Johari Tun Openg will announce the Bantuan Khas Sarawak Kusayang or 5.0 BKSS Special Assistance Package tomorrow. According to a statement from his office, the Chief Minister will make the announcement at a press conference at 2:30 p.m. The BKSS covers a wide spectrum of society and has helped in mitigating the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on Sarawakians. The Chief Minister's press conference, which will be broadcast live, will be held via Zoom for the first time, following calls to minimize physical contact. Since the COVID-19 virus outbreak in the state in March last year, the state government has implemented various aid under 4 BKSS packages amounting to more than 2.6 billion ringgit. Hello there everyone and welcome back. Now the long silent school bells rang today as many of these institutions reopened their doors for face-to-face lessons for secondary students sitting for 2020 public examinations. Despite the COVID-19 pandemic, schools still operate according to the new normal. For Chunghwa Middle School No. 4, as many as 90% of students have returned to school and compliance of SOPs are still continued to ensure the safety of students and teachers.
Hari ini actually adalah sekolah pertama yang murid balik sekolah. So kami hari ini ada tingkatan 6 punya murid mereka balik sekolah. Kami ada jumlah 50 pelajar. Tapi hari ini ada lebih 90% punya pelajar masuk sekolah. So murid ini mereka hari ini datang, mereka juga bayar mereka punya yuran sama bayar mereka punya beli mereka punya buku teks. So ibu bapa hari ini pun datang. Itu lain-lain form punya orang, mereka punya ibu bapa pun datang sekolah dan bayar beli mereka punya anak punya buku teks. Kerana besok kami punya online classes akan start. So murid dapat belajar di rumah. So hari ini kami ikut SOP sekolah yang diberitahu daripada kesihatan, daripada departmen-departmen kerajaan, macam pendidikan juga. SOP murid pagi awal datang dan mereka mesti ambil suhu, cuci tangan, okay, baru mereka boleh masuk bilik kelas. Bilik darjah. So kami harap ibu bapa murid mereka boleh berasa macam at least they feel safe lah, so that if they come to school mereka tidak takut apa-apa lah kerana sekolah semua ikut SOP yang diberitahu. Terima kasih.
Personal hygiene have always been a priority for students following the school session.
My feelings for today is scared and nervous because the corona is getting worse and we don't know when it'll end. So yeah, and also I'm worried about my family members because if I have it, my family members also have it. So I always, whenever I go back home, I always clean myself, take off my clothes and immediately take a shower, and then I do my normal daily routine. So yeah. Okay.
Meanwhile, physical classes are only allowed for those taking public examinations this year, while those who are not continue to take classes online. This comprehensive measure is hoped to garner the adoption of digitalization. Now, good news as borrowers of the National Higher Education Fund Corporation or PTPTN wishing to defer their loan repayments can do so from January 20 until March 31. No supporting documents are needed when making the application. The moratorium will be given for a 3-month period beginning from the month the approval is given by PTPTN between January and May 2021, while borrowers are reminded to update their contact details to ensure they receive the notification. Meanwhile, PTPTN Chairman Wan Saiful Wanjan said all offices at PTPTN should ensure that the application process runs smoothly and effectively. He also added that those affected by the floods or pandemic can apply for a 3-month moratorium on their PTPTN loan repayments. Now, meanwhile, Sarawak government allocates 5.1 million ringgit to aid some 73,000 households affected by movement control order since January 16. The affected residents are from 11 constituencies under 3 districts, namely Sibu, Selangau and Kanawit, which are currently placed under the MCO.
Sebanyak 5.1 juta. 5.1 juta. Dan kita berucapkan terima kasih kepada Yang Amat Berhormat Ketua Menteri kita atas keprihatinan beliau. Beliau telah pun bersetuju untuk memberi peruntukan ini untuk pengagihan makanan ini di kawasan yang telah pun saya sebutkan tadi, disebabkan oleh pelaksanaan MCO.
Chief Minister Datuk Patinggi Abang Johari Tun Openg officiated the brief ceremony to hand over of the food aid. Deputy Chief Minister Datuk Amar Awang Tengah Ali Hassan said the food aid will be distributed at the latest on Wednesday with strict adherence to MCO standard operating procedures. According to him, due to the enforcement of MCO in Cebu Division, the state government through a committee had a meeting on January 18 to formulate a strategy on distributing food aid. He said each recipient will receive items worth 70 ringgit, which consist of rice, sugar, flour, canned sardine, tea or coffee powder, cooking oil, biscuits and instant noodles. Now on to some COVID-19 updates as Sarawak recorded another spike with 203 positive COVID-19 cases recorded today. Now the highest cases recorded were from Cebu at 120 cases, followed by Kanawit at 43 cases and Kuching at 12 cases. This brings the total number of positive cases in the state to 2,570 cases. The Pasai cluster in Cebu continues to register the highest number of positive cases across the state, with 78 in Cebu, 43 cases in Kanawit, 8 in Betong, 4 in Bintulu, 3 in Dalat, 2 in Kuching and 1 in Kapit. The Disaster Management Committee also informed that the number of recoveries have now increased to 1,231. Meanwhile, the Malaysian Health Ministry reported 4,008 positive COVID-19 cases nationwide, bringing the total number of cases to 169,379. Selangor remains the state with the highest number at 1,391 cases, followed by Kuala Lumpur with 513 and Johor with 470. Today's number is the second highest for a single day, and the highest was on Sunday, January 16 at 4,029 cases. Meanwhile, the public are barred from organizing social activities or gatherings during the enforcement of the Movement Control Order and Conditional MCO in Sarawak. Divisional Disaster Management Committees have been ordered to monitor all social activities or assemblies in their respective division, and this directive takes immediate effect. Meanwhile, Sarawak Disaster Management Committee informed that 40 compounds were also issued throughout the state. It also said in a statement that the local government and housing ministry issued 143 notices through its local authorities. MCO has been enforced throughout the whole peninsular Malaysia, Sabah and Cebu for 2 weeks from January 22 to February 4. However, the ECMCO has been enforced in the other areas in Sarawak from January 18 until 31. Now, the only remaining flood evacuation center, or PPS, for victims in the southern region of Sarawak has officially closed at 2 p.m. today. The Sarawak Disaster Management Committee in a statement said overall there were 4,781 people from 1,273 families evacuated to 59 PPS across 4 divisions between January 12 and January 20. Kuching registered the highest number of evacuees at 2,419 victims from 633 families. This is followed by Serian with 1,091 victims and Bau with 922 victims. The highest number of flood victims was recorded on January 13 with 4,413 victims in 49 PPS. Thank you for staying with me. Now, following the next update, as retailers are allowed to impose a limit on the purchase of cooking oil in 1 kilogram polybag to 3 units per transaction for each customer, effective January 19. Now, the cooking oil in 1 kilogram polybag is a controlled item, which is subsidized under the Cooking Oil Stabilization Scheme. Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Ministry, or KPDN-HEP, Enforcement Director Azman Adam said the authorization was to ensure more customers obtain the cooking oil, which is subsidized by the government. Azman in a statement said the authorization is applicable to only 1 kilogram polybag pack and should be sold at RM2.50 per kg. He said KPDN-HEP is always monitoring the trading and distribution of the item. This is to ensure that wholesale and retailing distribution is not affected, thus giving confidence to the people that the supply of the essential item is adequate in the market. Right, now the cooking oil subsidy strategy implemented by the government has reduced the negative impact of palm oil price fluctuations in the world market on local consumers.
The crude palm oil CPO prices had risen significantly during the period of July 2019 until January 2021. Therefore, Minister of Plantation Industries and Commodities, Dr. Muhammad Khairuddin Aman Razali said the increase in cooking oil prices in the local market was still small. Muhammad Khairuddin said during the 2019 until 2020 period, the average CPO price in the local market recorded the lowest level of 1,879 ringgit per tonne in July 2019. The highest level was at 3,620 ringgit 50 cent per tonne in December 2020. The price of palm oil and palm-based products is determined by the world market involving factors such as demand and supply of oil, as well as world fat and various other factors. Muhammad Khairuddin hopes the global palm oil price will continue to remain high for the year 2021 so that the people could enjoy the benefits of the price increase through its returns made by the government.
Now, palm oil production in Malaysia is being dealt a double blow, from a persistent shortage of workers to harvest the crop and torrential rains that have triggered floods in key growing areas of the world's number 2 supplier.
Relentless heavy rain and thunderstorms have led to flash floods in parts of Sabah, Sarawak, Johor, Pahang and Perak, the biggest palm oil producing states in the country. Palm trees are typically water-loving and resistant to wet weather. Prolonged floods could prevent harvesting, which leads to overripe fruit and poor oil quality and disrupt transport of fruit to mills. Malaysia's reimpositions of lockdowns from January 13th and a state of emergency that may last until August complicates the recruitment of foreign labour that the palm industry is so desperate for. In Sarawak, Malaysia's second biggest palm growing state, the drop in yields may be more severe than the 15% to 20% initially estimated over the next 2 months. Andrew Cheng, CEO of the Sarawak Oil Palm Plantation Owners Association, said that as the acute workers shortage compounds production problems caused by flood waters, these have inundated plantation and interrupted harvesting.
Now, wrapping up the Nightline tonight, as Donald Trump will leave the White House for the last time, bound for Florida. Trump will not be attending the President-elect Joe Biden inauguration ceremony. Joe Biden is to be sworn in as U.S. President, taking the helm of a nation racked by political division, economic anguish, and an unrelenting pandemic. Alongside him, Kamala Harris will make history when she is sworn in as the U.S. first female vice president. Some 25,000 troops will guard the inauguration ceremony in Washington, D.C., which has been fortified after a deadly riot at the Capitol earlier this month. Ahead of his inauguration, Biden on Wednesday set out 15 executive actions as he would take immediately, covering climate, equality, immigration, and coronavirus. Biden will be sworn in as the 46th President of the United States by Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts shortly before midday on Thursday, Malaysian time, outside the U.S. Capitol. Due to COVID-19 restrictions, this ceremony will be bereft of the cheering throngs of well-wishers traditional at inaugurations. And that concludes TVS Nightline for tonight as we dive into what's going on in Sarawak, its regions and the world. Here with me, Shel Shaminator, and as always, I'll see you next time. Have a good night.